Welcome to Geological Shop Talk. In this podcast, we bring you roughly 20 to 25 minutes of practical clinical methods, perspectives, and advice that has its work boots on. Listen in for clinical gems that you can begin to investigate the next time that you walk into clinic. Additionally, visit the show notes page for supporting materials from this week's guest on Shop Talk. All right, friends, roll up your sleeves. Let's get to work. This episode of Shop Talk is brought to you by LASA OMS, your clinic's partner in wellness. LASA has a special offer for you. Listen for it later in the show. The information shared on this podcast is for educational purposes only and is not intended as medical advice. Always consult a qualified licensed healthcare professional before making any decisions about your health or treatment. The host and guests are not responsible for any actions taken based on the content of this podcast. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Shop Talk. I am delighted to have Stephen Cowan with us today. Stephen's been on the podcast before. He's a developmental acupuncturist, and he's an MD. He's been working with kids approximately forever. He's the author of a couple of books, A Fire Child, Water Child, and a fantastic book co-authored with Zev Rosenberg, A Ring Without End. And today, we're here to talk about the earlier stages of the development and reproductive cycle. As a developmental physician and an acupuncturist in particular, he's got some views that I'm really excited to get into with you today, because we know this from our medicine, that if you take care of things early, you don't have to worry about them so much later. So, Stephen, welcome to Shop Talk.
Thank you so much, Michael. It's always a pleasure to talk to you.
It's always fun to hang out with you. So let's begin with development.
Yeah. So, I sort of feel like Columbus. I had this revelation.
You can't say Columbus anymore. That guy's been canceled.
No, I'm not canceling him. Maybe it's Galileo then.
Okay.
Because I realize that the world is not flat. And yet in my Western medical training, development was a kind of linear model of you do this, then you do that, then you die, right? And Chinese medicine, the revelation of Chinese medicine and actually Chinese philosophy, Lao Tzu especially, thinks in terms of round, curves, spirals, right? I've done Tai Chi for 40 years, and it's seek the straight through the curved is one of the Tai Chi classic statements. Or Lao Tzu says, Fan, that there's power in the curve, and that the straight is defined through the curve. This is fundamental yin-yang medicine, right? That things revolve. So we could call adolescence the adolescent revolution, because it has a double meaning.
Yes, it does.
Right? There's a circular philosophy. But circle sounds too much like you start and end in the same place, and that's not what my revelation was after traveling with children for 40 years and watching them grow and then them bringing their kids to me. Watching these arcs of life, there's another reference, an arc of life, that it's a spiral. And that each time we come around, we're at a little slightly wider angle on our life. And this is very much the way the garden grows and trees grow in these spirals. You can count the rings. So this became an incredibly powerful way of explaining to parents what's happening with their kids, but like you said, being proactive, right? Thinking ahead. When I first started out, I didn't understand how these old-time pediatricians could say to the parents, oh, when this kid is, 5 years from now, you'll see he's been doing tumble. So this ability to see the future is inherently distinct about Chinese medicine. So let's get into the spiral and what I mean. These are what I call Jing stages. Okay, so you're born, you're all Jing, and you start developing your Qi and your Shen, and you go through a Suen 1 says these cycles of 7 and 8, right? So for girls, it's 7-year cycles, and for boys, it's 8-year cycles. Now, I don't want to get fixated on numbers because we're all a little different and we all have these ups and downs and quirkiness. So we don't want to get fixated on the numbers, but it is important to understand these kind of universal cycles. Remember, when you're born, you're 1 year old in Chinese philosophy. So when you're 6, for girls, you come around one whole cycle around from birth to now 6 or 7 years old to revisit your birth. And what this cycle is, for me, is 5 phases. So you're born in water. That's the Jing triad. Earth, water, fire. We call it the maturation triad. And remember that, because that triad, if you can visualize these co-relationships, which are much older than the Sheng, you understand where the conflicts are at any stage that a child is at. It swivels from there to a wood stage. So let's say around 7, you're who am I now? I'm in school. People are telling me what to do, right? I have friendships. I have all these things. What are the big challenge of a 7-year-old? Earth, water, fire. Earth is about diet. It's about communication. It's about social development. Water is about self-reflection, introspection. And fire is about, being alive, expression. The heart speaks out. So that's a Jing moment or a crisis, a Wei Ji moment. Crisis is, right, dangerous opportunity.
Yes. Danger and opportunity mixed together.
Right. Dangerous opportunity. But opportunity for what? Right? An opportunity to deal with change. Probably the most fundamental concept in Chinese medicine is change. And almost all of our challenges, whether it's hormonal challenges or growth challenges, developmental challenges, emotional challenges, physical challenges, since we're embodied beings, is about dealing with change, letting go of one thing to take on something new. So from water stage of 7, second Jing cycle, we have to move into a wood stage somewhere around 9, 8 or 9, where you have a growth spurt. Wood, growth, movement, forward, upward, go. Right? You're swiveling around. And a lot of kids get stuck even there. A lot of stuff happens around that growth stage, especially if diet is poor. We know about spleen qi deficiency and all the things related to it, what I call the too muches, right? It can be eating too fast or eating too much or, eating too sugary foods or eating too late, right? Or no time, noshing all day long, snacking, right? Right? All of these things that have to do with, or eating too cold, the most famous one of them all in our culture, right? All of these create a kind of spleen qi, stresses out the spleen, one of the arms of this triad. And then it delays or affects growth, which is the next stage, wood, water to wood, first challenge. So what we're doing and what I'm counseling parents on and kids when I lay out this spiral is what's actually happening in your body and what's the challenge at hand and how to make that challenge smooth. Diet, water is sleep. So now we have diet and sleep, earth and water. And fire is kind of watching the emotions express themselves. Those 3 become a way of proactively teaching kids about their body and parents as well. You swivel around a little more to around 10. So we're coming around the spiral, water to wood to fire. Fire, the triad, is now a very kind of challenging triad. Water, fire, metal. Metal are rules. Metal is education. Metal is the constraint on wood, right? Metal is a very interesting challenge when we're in this fire stage around 10 or 11, when we're going into heat, right? Literally. hormonally. Our body's beginning to change in many different ways. Now, if you haven't taken care of that spleen qi deficiency in the wood stage or the water stage, then in the fire stage, you're prone to toxic heat, right? Which is spleen qi deficiency or liver constraint, the two famous causes of toxic heat, which will come out how? You'll get all kinds of emotional dysregulations. You'll get acne. You'll get sweating in the wrong times of day. You'll get all kinds of weird things that we're going to see later in the spirals at 30, as you said, as 50. So menopause will be, affected, the intensity, if we haven't taken care of it here.
Yes. It's going to rhyme with it. It's going to rhyme with what came before.
Always. It's a ganying, right? It's this kind of resonance with what we went through before. Just like if you have a trauma at any of these stages in the spiral, the next time you come around, the next Jing cycle, you get a chance, a dangerous opportunity to heal it. And there's some loving forgiveness in that.
This is interesting hearing you say this. So often we think about trauma these days. Well, what do we do about this trauma? How do we heal this trauma? And I hear you talking about coming around this ever-widening spiral. I like that aspect that you bring to it. It's not just a spiral, it's ever-widening. You have a greater breadth.
Ever-widening, so you get a slightly larger angle on it and an opportunity to heal it.
Yes, and so you have a shot at something, maybe kind of like redemption.
Yeah, it's dangerous opportunity, right? It's an opportunity to heal something that happened at that point. So I deal with a lot of kids around 7, 14-ish, who had birth trauma. And it rears its ugly head again, and nobody can understand why, and nobody's making a connection. They just see it as some kid acting out. But if you trace it back, all the way back, you see this kind of pattern manifesting in a slightly different way because you're at this wider angle, but it's the same opportunity to heal something. The problem with trauma work these days is not seeing the link as opportunities to heal. And when we see it in these triads that Ephraim Korngold and I talk about all the time, you understand what's the most important word in Chinese medicine, how to harmonize where these co-relationships got stuck before. I mean, that's Chinese medicine. You can pick points based on these triads. You can pick herbs based on this, but you can also orient yourself like a GPS system moving around this, and it becomes a teachable, revelatory opportunity for parents and for children to know themselves, not out of shame, not out of blame, but out of this kind of journey, this exciting journey, this of learning, unfolding.
Yeah, so it's not a problem to fix.
No.
It's an exploration to delve into.
To explore, engage in new ways, right? And I want to get into that because we only have a little time. So let's continue, right? So we have fire, which is a huge moment, 10, 11. If you can avoid the big toxic heat of puberty by working back in the water stage and then the wood stage so that this isn't so bad. You'll get another opportunity to deal with it, but then comes earth stage. And the triad of earth that's challenging is wood to earth, liver to spleen, and earth to water, or spleen to kidney. And this is FOMO. Earth is about, I want to fit in. I want to have friends. I don't need mom and dad anymore. There's physiologic changes, in neurology that define a shifting pruning that takes place around this age of 12, 13, where you don't resonate as deeply with the voice of your mother or father. You're much more attuned now to listen to your friends. There's actual medical evidence of this. It's not a problem.
That shows our nervous system is reattuning itself.
Exactly. Reattuning itself, pruning the brain to fit into a new tribal awareness. Who am I now? Right? Earth stage. And then...
Well, Stephen, this is fascinating because it's right about this stage in most traditional cultures, there's some kind of puberty rituals that literally severs you from your earlier life and initiates you into being an adult.
That's right. All around the world, all the ancient traditions had this coming of age where you're welcomed into the tribe as a new persona. And that gets indelibly written in when you come through middle stage, which is about ritual, which is about rites of passage. So now you're moving even further in 12, 13 to come around to 14 back into a water stage, right? A water stage where you have this, who am I now?
Very much so.
So this is a critical reevaluation of how far I've come around 2 Jing cycles now, right? Jing is not, we learn in Chinese medicine that Jing is sort of this substance, this material substance, but I think of Jing, if you think about the character, as a verb. I think it's...
Oh, man. Okay, wait a minute. Hang on one second.
Yeah.
Jing as a verb, not as a noun. Yes, we were taught it's a noun. There's a limited amount of it. It's a thing.
Not a noun.
Jing is a verb. Holy smokes.
Think about it this way. I call it arousal, which is very much in keeping with the nature of sexual Jing essence. But if you think of the character, rice, it's sort of rice that looks like it's popping, right? These 8 bars coming out. And next to it is green, which has the dantian, and sheng, the birth, coming out of it. Those are all verbal aspects, right? It's the seed. Seed is not an inactive thing. It's packed with potential. So if we redefine Jing as arousal, like in spring, they're woken up. The seeds are woken up. Yesterday, we still have a foot of snow on the ground here. And my wife and I went out with salt shakers of poppy seeds. And you're supposed to dump them into the snow. And they melt down with the snow so that by spring they've been sucked all the moisture, water stage, in. They're ready to pop. So it's an active thing, Jing. You think about the herbs that are all seeds, that are all zi and ren, right? Swansao ren, right? These are all seeds. They're very active substances. They're not static.
Well, they're not only active, but part of the way they work is they have to become completely undone from what they are to allow their potential to come out and manifest. It's a very alchemical, transformational, completely undone. You have to come undone from one state before you can integrate. Not integrate's not the right word, but like grow into what the next thing is.
Grow. Yeah, grow into your context. So I love the word undone, Michael, because that's how I translate Wu Wei, as being undone. Like you're reestablishing yourself. You have to shed a skin, shed a shell, shed your placenta, shed whatever, your womb, shed this lining, unswaddle yourself to move into the next stage. That's the water stage. So we come around this stage and proactively, when the people listening can actually map this out in a spiral with these Ke triads for people at any age, revelations of connections come out. I've seen it over and over. I do it with every single patient, everyone I meet, because they have this active sense of an adventure. Oh, those are my challenges, my wagey here, right? And now I'm shifting, looking forward to the next one, and then the next one, and then the next one, right? These triads move around like a clock in a spiral, and then you come back around and revisit, now who am I? And it's an exciting experience. Now, let's take it one step further, mindful of time. The first take home is this idea to think in the revolution of spirals, of coming around change, and understanding how these opportunities for change take place within our system, using the 5-phase model. The second take-home message is, I think, even more important for children healthily moving through these stages so that when they're 30 or 40, which is what the bulk of the people listening are dealing with in their practice, or elderly people, they have a healthier sense of their embodiment, right? So body image, physicality, emotional mind, distributed mind, this idea of who am I, right? So the action is to see the water stage, earth, water, fire, spleen, kidney, heart, to see that as this pause, this seed pause. All the seeds in herbal medicine are all about water energy. So Wu Weizi is a classic example. These seeds, or Ren, these kernels. But the idea is now, to help move that, we're going to do an exercise with people when they're in a crisis, when they're in this movement moment, this existential moment. And what you do, and it's borrowed from Stanley Kellerman's work, and I do this with everybody, in the treatment room, whatever stress, you don't ask why someone's feeling a symptom. In kids, you never ask why. You ask where to embody it. Don't ask why, ask where, so they can localize.
Ask where. Holy smokes.
Here's the question. Where are you feeling stressed today? Not why are you feeling stressed? Why is that? Very heady psychobabble question. I don't want to go there. I want to stay embodied, because this is about an embodied experience. So you ask where, so they can localize it. And it takes a little while. You can use moo points to really help them localize where their body is sending off an alarm that I'm having difficulty making the spiral transition. And then you tighten that area. You go backwards to metal, tighten it, restrict it, and then move to wood, release it. And then go back, tighten it. Whatever the place you're feeling stress, it could be in your neck, it can be in your chest, it can be in your diaphragm, in your stomach, in your shoulders, in your wherever. Often it's in the di channel. Let's not even get into that. Don't worry. Anybody can do this in the treatment room. Before you needle, before you moxa, before you do anything, you're asking them to check in on their embodiment and where their stress is holding them back from moving to the next stage in the spiral. And then what you do is you exaggerate it, tighten it, to then spring it forward. It's a very Tai Chi principle, right? All this Tai Chi principles of to move forward, you move back, right? All of this is very important, because what it allows the patient, the client, to feel is they're checking in. You can't tell someone to relax. You can't tell a teenager just relax. You tell them first,
calm down. That never works.
Never tell them calm down. Tell them tighten up and then release, and they have experienced calming down themselves.
Beautiful.
And the information that has for you as a clinician allows you then to actually have a very good treatment, because what you're doing is developing tong, is flow, easy flowing communication of the vessels, of the organs, communication within the body. But what is even more important, if I have a girl coming who has cutting, right? They're cutting themselves at 13 or 14. The first thing I do is tell them, this is the intelligence of your body talking about certain channels, right? Look at how wise that is. Let me explain how we can do this in a more refined way. You're trying to do it, but you don't know what you're doing because you haven't been educated. Let me help you understand what your body's trying to accomplish. Leon Hammer.
Stephen, this is such an incredible gift to young people.
They know, they feel seen, they feel heard.
Instead of being told, this is wrong and don't do that and be like this, you're saying, oh, this thing that's going on? Yeah, make it tighter. This thing that you're doing, that's wisdom. Let me help you do that better.
Exactly. So Leon Hammer said, first ask, what is the symptom trying to accomplish? And how can we help it? As opposed to putting out fires the way I was taught in Western medicine. just a glorified fireman.
Right. And look, for many of us in our Chinese medicine as well, we're trying to put out fires because, look, the job is to help people.
Yes.
And often putting out a fire is helpful.
Short term.
But if we're short term, but in that longer spiral, as we attend to not just where they are, but who they are becoming and where they came from, oh man, talk about being seen and heard and understood. That right there is phenomenally healing on so many levels.
Yeah, and that's actually what I mean by being a developmental acupuncturist, because I'm engaging in the journey with them. I'm helping them see the awe that their body and mind, this embodied being, is on an adventure. And I'm just sort of along for the ride and guiding them and saying, wow, look at that. This is what your body's actually telling you right now. Isn't that cool? How many kids come to me with locked diaphragms? And they've been to GI doctors because they have stomach aches, or they've been to pulmonologists because they have chest pain. But all it is the diaphragm locked. Why would the diaphragm lock? Why would we do that? We're bracing ourselves to get hit. Now, what are the things that we're bracing for? The education system, the shame system, right? You're doing it wrong. You got an F, you failing, you're not paying attention, whatever it is. Social pressures, you're bracing yourself to be cool, to fit in, to be accepted. Parent constraints, you're bracing yourself. All of this, the very, very middle of ourselves, the diaphragm that separates the upper from the middle burners, is like a fist. So I have kids will make a fist, breathe into your belly, and really make tight fists, and then blow out with their mouth and open their fists so that they can then feel, because everybody's breathing with their chest instead of their belly. It's the same principle. It's give a breath.
Right. And so instead of saying, take a deep breath, again, you're encouraging, you're going to give it. And how do you give it? Tighten, tighten, tighten. Now you can move forward.
And then release. And when you're aware of the release, without someone telling you to calm down, you've actually embodied it. You've experienced it, not me telling you what to do. You've actually done the work yourself. And then the flow happens, right? The heart gets better circulation, oxygenation, the dachi of heavens comes in better, because as every opera singer knows, when you lower the diaphragm to breathe in, you get more air in, better oxygenation of blood. And that immediately...
Not to mention massage every single organ you have.
Exactly. You're massaging your organs. Right?
Wonderful.
So these are all basic principles of how to get unstuck in these different moments along the journey of the spiral that have far-reaching effects in your 20s, 30s, 40s, because you've had the opportunity to do the work in teens or preteens, or even earlier.
Yeah. Well, look, we could go on and on with this, as we like to do, but here on Shop Talk, something short, sweet, that you can take into the clinic and investigate. Look, I'm going to see some patients this afternoon, and they often come in talking about where they're tight or where they're stuck, and now I've got kind of a new idea, so I'm going to go investigate that for myself.
And throw in the Jing cycle. Where are you at in your life? A mission, right? This Ming. Where are you at? Oh, look at that. That's so cool. You're trying to get there, and you're a little tight. Maybe you're afraid to get there. Maybe, you don't know what that there is, right? So look at this. We can ease you in.
That's wonderful. If people would like to know more about what you're doing, or learn more about how you work and maybe be able to incorporate that, where do they go to find you?
drstephencowan.com is my website, and that's got a lot of source material. Teaching, I have a Jingshen Pediatrics mentorship program that Moshe Heller and I run every year, and there's even an online course that you can take as well. And I'm always teaching around the country, symposium. And like I said, Ephraim and I are going to do this big teaching in Florida in April on your whole womb to tomb cycles. But I can also provide you, Max, with Michael, with this kind of handout if you want to post it. I'm happy to give you that. Yeah, yeah.
Sure. I'll make sure that's on the show notes, folks, for show notes page for folks. That would be great. All right, my friend. Until the next time then.
Until the next time, I look forward to more.
Me as well.
Keep up the good work.
When practitioners reach for a Chai Hu Guizhi Tang or Shao Qing Long Tang, they need quality that they can trust. Lhasa OMS supplies the herbs your clinic needs to be ready for the cold and flu season. Visit Lhasa OMS to source the classical formulas featured in this series. Use the code REMEDY20 for 20% off your next purchase at lhasaoms.com. Some exclusions apply. See the website for details. That's it for this episode of Shop Talk. Did you learn something that brought a patient to mind? Don't keep a good thing to yourself. Share it with a friend. They'll be happy that you did. And tune in again for our next episode of Shop Talk.